In your bestseller, Wikinomics, I mean, you wrote about how collaborative decision-making, collaborative content creation was going to transform the way we work and live. Now, in your new book, Macrowikinomics, you say that the power of this collaborative networking is even more important than it was then. Why? What's changed? What's happened in the last 4 years?
Well, Alan, the big turning point for me, and I remember the incident, I was doing a talk in Europe to a group called Sibos. It was 7,000 bankers. And it happened 2 days after Lehman crashed. And it occurred to me that this is not just about how the corporation is changing. We're at a turning point in history here, where arguably the industrial economy and many of its institutions, like the old financial services industry, have kind of run out of gas. That you look through all these different institutions, from the newspaper to science to old models of government and healthcare, and the music industry is collapsing, and our systems for global problem solving, our energy grid and transportation systems are destroying the planet, that we're stalled. And at the same time, kind of like the printing press, the internet has come of age, and it's now inexorably having its impact. And showing us some sparkling new models of how we can organize these institutions.
Well, I want to talk almost on a sector-by-sector basis about
Sure.
where that tension between the old regimes and this new network intelligence is happening. But to make it real, I mean, you start the book with a really interesting story about, unhappily, the Haiti disaster, the earthquake, and how there was a particular website that played a really important role in the disaster relief. Tell me that story.
Well, after the, going back a few years earlier in Kenya, after the controversial, to say the least, election there that resulted in all kinds of riots and death and stuff like that, there was a young Kenyan lawyer named Ori Okolov, and she was very concerned that the media in Kenya was not strong enough to report on this stuff. And that this was just going to continue somehow, and everyone needed information about what was going on. So she created a website whereby people in Kenya could report on the various activities, put up information, pictures, and so on. And it was called Ushahidi. So Ushahidi is an example of mass collaboration, only beyond the corporation, now being applied to a social problem. And in the case of Haiti, they found people in the rubble. People out in Africa and in Australia.
We're able to identify people in the rubble.
Yeah, because some little kid is in the rubble. She's been there for several days. She's texting in Creole. The Ushahidi network picks it up, triangulates her location. The rescuers go in and they save her life.
The other sector that the financial meltdown really exposed was the automobile industry. And you write about a group called Local Motors. Very, very interesting. And you see this as kind of an alternative way we might be making automobiles in the future. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it's an amazing story. This guy, Jay Rogers, is he's fighting in the Iraq War. He sees his friends get killed. Many attacks. Humvee beside him blows up, loses some buddies. And he decides that he's over there sort of defending the energy resources of the United States, and in particular the sclerotic automobile industry that's been incapable of producing cars that are actually correspond to real needs and that are fuel efficient and so on. So he decides, I'm going to build a whole different model, but it's going to be based on the internet and on the principles of Wikinomics. Actually, we didn't say in the book, but when we met him, he said he built this company based on our book. And the way it works is that he's got 5,000 designers, but they're on the web. And they don't work for him per se. They come up with great designs and get compensated based on that. And rather than a 3 million square foot manufacturing facility in Detroit or somewhere, he's got local motors, local manufacturing capabilities in 30 centers where he hires local people, and then cars are designed to the needs of the local environment. So
and the supply chain is defined by the internet.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah.
So I need a door, and
exactly.
The door.
Well, in fact, other than these super high-tech frames that he built, all of the parts come from companies that make auto parts, or from other auto manufacturers like BMW or whatever. So, but this is to the point. The internet is not about websites or eyeballs or stickiness or page views or something like that. It's a global technology platform that radically drops transaction and collaboration costs. So you can build an auto company on the internet.
Now, Henry Ford famously said, if I would have listened to my customers, I would have ended up building a better horse and buggy. The implication in terms of 2010, 2011 is that, you know, that the public really can't anticipate what it is that is the next big thing, or even what they want. And that this mass collaboration can also lead to a lack of innovation and mass mediocrity. What's your response to that?
Well, first of all, often customers don't know what they want. Customers didn't know they wanted an iPhone or an iPad.
No, exactly.
Or for that matter, customers didn't know they wanted a RIM BlackBerry. But to say that these collaborations that occur on an astronomical scale result in mediocrity is just, it's factually incorrect. So in Wikipedia, it's written by 1 million people. It's 10 times bigger than Britannica, and 190 languages. And the big study that's been done says the quality, the error rate, is roughly the same. The Linux operating system is now the dominant operating system in the world for medium and large computers. And it really works. Linux has some good customers like China. You know, Linux is used in most mobile devices. It's used as the operating platform for nuclear power plants, and it is superior to other operating platforms, but nobody knows it. The Boeing 787 Dreamliner was built on this model. Now, they had some delays, but rather than giving a spec to their suppliers, the old way, a 20,000-page document, and then you say, you do this, they said, no, we're going to peer collaborate this thing on the internet, and rather than a big spec, we'll give you a 20-page document saying, here's what we're trying to achieve.
One, for me personally, one of the most interesting parts of the book is how you apply this thinking to governments. And you say that it's wildly overdue, and that what we have to do is move to an open source government. What is that? What does that look like?
Well, the old model of government came out of the same period as the old model of the corporation. And it's like, I'm a government, I take tax revenue from you. I have all these people who work for me, I create these services and laws, I deliver them to you, I hope you enjoy them. Well, that will continue. But the new model is government as a platform. And what that means is that governments can provide capability or be a curator of public value that gets created in new ways. So I was with the CEO of Melbourne about a month ago, and I said to her, you've got thousands of categories of data. Just give it away. Release it within privacy constraints. Do you have data about bicycle accidents? She says, sure. I said, release it. Someone will create a Google mashup in 24 hours, and within a week you'll be saving lives, and it won't cost a thing. So this is governments create...
Explain that just a little bit more for our viewers, because they might not understand. What would this Google mashup look like, and how could they save lives for bicycle riders?
It would show a map of Melbourne, and the map would change color depending on where all the dangerous places are.
So they would identify, this is a bad corner right here. We
don't go there.
And or do something.
And someone would come up with a thing that would show better routes, on how to get from here to there, and eventually someone probably add some GPS so that on your bicycle you could help find a route. But people would avoid the places where you get killed on bicycles. So this is not about outsourcing government, it's not about privatization, there's nothing in the first place. It's a different way about thinking how a government could create value for the public. We used to call this services in the past.
Right. Now, the other thing that we look to government for is to protect ourselves. You know, to make sure that this food doesn't have listeria in it, or that this river is not polluted. Here, too, you say citizens at the end of the day could probably do a better job of this monitoring and surveillance than government does.
Well, they do. The citizen regulator today is influencing all kinds of industries. They're finding out what's going on. They're informing others. It's just something like, and again, if governments are smart and they wake up to this, they will release data. Governments have data about radon gas. Turns out it's a big killer of people. And there are all kinds of people, companies, civil society organizations, individuals, other governments who care about radon gas. So you just release the data, and then all these different pillars of society self-organize. They start to create all kinds of services and things. It doesn't cost, that will help us protect ourselves from radon gas. It doesn't cost the government anything. This is a fundamental change in the architecture of a government.
But we've seen how governments respond to things as simple as access to information requests. They're constantly trying to hold back information. What has to change? What has to give to create kind of a political incentive on the part of government?
Well, see, Alan, that really gets to the sort of rebooting idea that we're not just in an economic slump or the aftermath of a financial meltdown. This really is a turning point in history where we've now got this convulsive shock to the system that's causing a lot of institutions like government to think very differently. I've been working with the government in Portugal and the Prime Minister there, and they have a sovereign debt crisis. They're running out of money. They can't fund their basic operations. They need to make fundamental changes. They didn't 5 years ago, but now they do. So they've adopted this thing called the digital economy strategy. It's basically macroeconomics implemented by a government. They're transforming the schools. Every kid gets a laptop connected to a high-speed network in the schools. They're retraining the teachers. Rather than e-gov or government online or all this stuff, which is paving the old cow path, it's taking our old model of government and sticking it on the web. They're making fundamental changes, as we just discussed, to government. They're implementing plans to build intelligence into the whole energy grid. They want to change the transportation system because they have to, because the old approaches are stalled and they're just not working anymore.
And the byproduct of that kind of paralysis and lack of faith in traditional institutions is usually inaction. Nothing happens as a consequence. You look in the Canadian context, in healthcare, for example, an issue that's been on the agenda forever. Everyone recognizes it's a system that's unsustainable. You talk about how collaborative healthcare could work and how it could, save the system.
Well, again, we have all these debates about healthcare, but they're all within the same mental model of a paternalistic, industrial age, mass production approach to healthcare, where I'm a doctor, I have knowledge, you're a patient, you don't, I will deliver healthcare to you.
Yes.
The system delivers, and by the way, the only time you come into the system is when you're sick. Well, why don't we move towards a collaborative model where people can work together on the internet? When you're born, you should get a website. Every baby should have a website, and it's half healthcare record and half Facebook for healthcare. And you got all kinds of information. Your physicians and others provide data for this. There's security, but you have transparency into your own record, and you have all these tools to help you manage your health, to collaborate with others. You have a rare disease, you use patients like me to collaborate with others, and this provides a huge source of information and data which could contribute to science and to improving medicine per se.
That by virtue of people coming, let's say they had type 2 diabetes, a big website where everyone who would come there, you would actually have medical discoveries.
Absolutely.
Occurring.
Yeah, because people would be saying, well, here's what happened when I did this and when I did that, and you could structure it so that people could even fill out forms and give data anonymously about what's happening. And scientists studying type 2 diabetes would learn from that, and we've already seen that this has contributed to medical breakthroughs in the limited way that it's occurred today.
We've seen the fiasco that happened at eHealth here in Ontario. What is government supposed to do? They just get out of the way, or do they have a role to play in these collaborative policy advances?
No, they shouldn't get out of the way. They should be a leader, but not to do it themselves. They should be a leader in creating the context whereby society can self-organize.
The platform again.
And they should be a curator.